All right, hello everybody. We are back with the Remembering Whodunnit Podcast. I'm Peter Slattery. I'm here with the amazing Matt DeGeneres. And first of all, we got to apologize. It has been a very long time since we've been on here. But that's for good reason because Matt, I know you're still in college. You were finishing up that last semester of junior year. So how was that for you?
Oh man, it was a lot of work, but I'm like finally wrapping up, finally done. So I'm glad to be doing this pod with you again, Peter. I'm glad to be free, and I'm excited to dive into today's content.
Me too, yeah. And I was super busy because I had other projects to work on. I know you guys probably saw all three of you who watched this. The Whodunnit vlog. We actually pulled it off. We did Whodunnit. It was a crazy experience. We're gonna save that for another episode because this is a different one. But yeah, we actually did the game and we did a production vlog behind the scenes. So that's up on the channel. That hopefully was gonna supplement the gap between. And then I also was working on another project for another club at Rutgers. So we'll see what happens with that. But that was a lot of fun. So anyway, we are here. And what this episode is going to be about is, again, it's a little different, but it's going to be special because this is going to be the very first episode with a guest. Yes, we're bringing on a guest. We're going to interview them. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're specifically talking about what it's like for a newcomer to watch the show. So as you guys know, me and Matt watched the show when we were little. We talk about it literally all the time. That's the point of this podcast. But we want people to get into the show who haven't seen it, and that's who we're going to bring on today. One of our closest friends from Rutgers. He's a great guy, and he's going to talk about what it was like to watch the show, what his thoughts were, and all that. So we're going to bring him on very shortly. But while I'm doing that, Matt, do you have anything you want to say before we get him on?
Uh, Nothing really. Just who done it, it's a little different than what you might know from a lot of different reality shows. Who done it, you're not voting people out. It's all just about your skill, what you know, and how you present the information you receive. So it is very different in that aspect. So I'm very excited to see how Adam, when we bring him on, what he says and how he relates that to shows that he's watched, such as Survivor and, a little bit of Big Brother and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're waiting for him to come on now, and I guess we'll just see what he has to say
Yeah.
about He Done It. Does he like the show? Does he hate the show? Does he think we're just a couple of, like, fanboys who just won't shut up about it? Let's see. And here he is. We have Adam Tropper, our wonderful guest. Thank you for taking the time to come out and be on the podcast. And like I said, you have the honor of being our first guest. So, just I guess tell us a little bit about yourself and how, like, you might be qualified to talk about reality TV.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Let's hope I'm qualified to talk about this. I like to think my credentials are pretty good by now, but myself, along with Peter, we started a reality TV club essentially at our undergrad, a little thing called Rutgers Survivor. So we kind of took our love of that show, turned that into an entire competition. And Matt, I mean, I don't want to spoil season one, but if you actually paid attention to Rutgers Survivor, someone in this call, competed. Yeah, that's how we met him, and he may or may not have done pretty well.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
that
have it right next to me. This is my OG
The
buff.
OG buff.
Yeah.
wow, good times. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that establishes my reality TV credentials. But in terms of who done it specifically, it was a couple months ago, January, I believe. As so 4 months ago at the time of this recording, Peter, we were just hanging out. He came to my house for a couple days, and he's been talking about this show for a while, I
Yeah.
gotta say. So he's like, you know what? If I don't get you to watch it now, you're never gonna watch it on your own. And he was kind of right. But we finally got to watch it, and we'll talk more about it throughout this episode, I imagine. But I had a lot more positive reaction than I was anticipating for sure.
Yeah, so he's heard me talk my ear off about the show so many times. I'm like, just watch Who Done It, watch Who Done It. He's like, yeah, sure, sure, sure. Never got to it. Like you said, I was there with him, and I'm like, no, we're watching at least two episodes, and then you tell me if we want to go forward. So, I guess just first impressions on the show, because like I said, that's what this podcast is going to be about. Just like you never grew up with the show, you have absolutely zero nostalgia about it. You didn't know anybody's name. You didn't know the plot. You other than me telling you how great it was, like you knew nothing. So like going into it, what was your kind of like your first reaction if you can remember that first episode? Like with Sherry, the fish tank, maybe the butler, Giles, like anything that stuck out to you, like what were you thinking?
I was incredibly skeptical because I don't really give a you know what about the murder mystery type content or genre. And I was like, okay, you know what? If it maybe there's some vote out component, there's clearly some strategy thing. I don't know what's going on, but let's give it a shot. And it probably took half of the first episode for me, maybe even a little more, to truly get interested. If I got to be honest, I was trying to figure out the dynamics of the gameplay, or like what you have to figure out. It's a lot to, admittedly, for a new viewer, for better or for worse, to figure out what is going on, because it's actually surprisingly complex. I feel like you have to be a little bit intelligent to be able to watch. And while I think that I meet that criteria, when we were trying to watch at 1 a.m., I didn't exactly feel like I was in the full mental capacity to pay that much attention. So once I realized I needed to, lock in a little bit, I think that helped ease any pain. But it was really the end of yeah, it was the end of the first episode. That's when I realized that this was legit. When we are talking about, a guy who ends up being set on fire. That's like where I started to think, okay, production value, you were right, pretty
Yep.
good here. This could be something. And that kind of piqued interest. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it took probably the heavy majority of the first episode for me to buy in, to realize like that this is like an impressive production for what it was.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. Matt, did you have anything you wanted to ask Adam to start?
Um, I know you said you were a little skeptical, Adam, but when
Yeah.
you found out necessarily there wasn't any voting, like a Survivor, was there any moment that you just wanted to be like, I'm done, not watching this? Because I showed it to Kyle, for one of our friends from school. He was not vibing with it at first because of that main purpose. So I want to hear what you have to say.
I wouldn't say that was a complete turn off of the show. I think a big part of it was genuinely just out of respect for Peter, knowing how much he wanted me to watch it, and the fact that he was at my house for 5 days, so I couldn't really get away from it anyway. I kind of was like, you know what? Let me just suck it up. I trust me, I don't remember exactly what my thought process was. I thought I'm probably not going to enjoy this as much as him, but maybe it'll be interesting. But yeah, it wasn't something where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna shut this off, turn this off immediately because I just do not care. But like I said, I wasn't exactly hopeful either until, realizing farther in what could actually come out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, usually that's the point where, a lot of America kind of was like, what is this show when Dante came down the stairs and was burning on fire? Like that's the part that got everybody else intrigued. So it's funny to see that for somebody who watched it, like I said, basically 13 years later, which is another thing that might blow your mind that like this is like old. This is not what this wasn't recorded during COVID. This is like pre like this is like 2013. So
And and I think I told you this when it happened, Peter, to give it full credit. Like the production value, especially, it felt like it was ahead of its time, and you've said that too. But truly, like I think, like you said, that first episode, the shock factor of the whole Dante's Inferno, that was something cool to say the least. Sorry, I cut you off, but I just
no, no,
really
no,
had
you're
to
good. Yeah,
emphasize that point.
way back before the sanctuary, where good things happen. But
Good
but
things
we don't have
happen.
to go with that. So you talked about Dante. I'm just curious too because keep in mind, I guess this is like a spoiler-ish type of thing. Was there any other like death that kind of like either shocked you or one that you kind of remembered being like, wait, oh my God, like that's kind of crazy, like that they did all that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. That was definitely the most like shocking, just because of, like I said, the level of production value. I think there were some other ones where like looking at the intricacies a little bit, kind of I think like was cool, like what you really had to figure out.
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
Peter, do you remember the one where I the chandelier, they're in
Yes,
like
yes. So
the
that's
yeah with
Geno's. Yep.
with yes, thank you, with like the hula necklaces, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
little luau. There's something really complicated about that. I don't even remember all the components of what happened, if I got to be perfectly honest. But I do remember thinking like, okay, that seems pretty elaborate. And that's the first time where it also started making you thinking like, Giles, could he be like a secret killer here? Like
Mhm.
it added another plot twist almost as well.
Yeah, because I know there's the classic cliche, the butler did it.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it's kind of like that. Were they playing around with that? And you'll actually see that a little bit in the finale, if you remember. We could talk about your thoughts on like how the finale kind of shaped, and as a new viewer, what you thought. So yeah, and I visibly remember you even being like, oh my gosh, like that case was like so there were so many different levels, like plan A and then plan B, and then like people were guessing like crazy strategies and everything. I guess let me think here too. Did you have a favorite contestant? Not necessarily a winner or finalist, but was there anybody that stuck out to you that you're like, I really want them to go far, or you didn't like them, you know?
I mean, I'll be honest, I think I was pretty impartial the entire time. I kind of also latched on to some of your favorites, if I got to be honest. So, like,
Mhm.
Ronnie, I felt was pretty
Yeah,
chill.
Ronnie.
Cam grew on me a lot. I thought probably like many that he was just like kind of the asshole villain of the season. And then you realize that, wait a second, he's legit like the only one who's strategizing and maybe playing the game how it not necessarily was intended, but playing the game in more of like a reality TV show style that I'm used to, like, creating alliances, strategically trying to get someone out. So I think that probably had me growing him a little bit as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
go
I,
ahead.
I have a two-part question for you, Adam, if you don't mind
Ooh,
me asking.
fire
So
away.
for the first part, were you able to like pick up the pieces as you were watching, and were you able to formulate the cases? Because as viewers, you get information to every location. They only get one
Mhm.
location. So were you able to kind of put the pieces together of the murders?
I feel like there were one or two where maybe I did, but if I got to be honest, my granted, probably didn't try that much, but my success rate, at least in my head, probably was not great. I was more in it for the entertainment, see what happens. I like right before the state your case, I definitely like, I think Peter paused the episodes and tried to have me kind of do a similar thing, maybe not to the same extent, but like see if I'm actually in the right direction. More often than for my ego, more often than not, I like to say I was, but honestly, I don't remember, and I probably wasn't. But that's the other thing I appreciate how complicated it was. How like for example, Cam, what was he? Forensic science. Ronnie was a bounty hunter. Like these people actually do this for a
Yeah.
living, so like
Yeah.
it is difficult. So to real, I think if anything, that made me just appreciate everything, like because like normal people, like it's not like Survivor where you're throwing normal people into the woods like season one, and it's just you're supposed to create your own society. These people, I mean, yes, they're normal civilians, but they have a clear expertise in this type of thing. And from most of the viewers, including ourselves, we don't. So there's only so much that you could kind of follow along.
Mhm. And the second part to that was I think when me and Peter, when we hosted Whodunnit,
Yes.
I think you were one of the few people that actually ended up watching the entirety of the show. So I want to say, how did you use that to your advantage when actually going out and solving the cases and trying to put pieces together?
I really did try, and that's a great question. But the biggest problem was knowing that most of the other players have not had the luxury of being sat down by Peter and kind of forced to watch it at first. I knew that not everyone would kind of know the same routines, and admittedly, it's the club me and Peter created a couple years back, Rutgers Survivor. So a lot of these people are survivor oriented, vote out oriented, creating alliances oriented. So I actually felt like I had to adapt my gameplay on that one kind of away from what the product of the Whodunnit game probably should have entailed. And I'm not sure if that's what did me in. Spoiler alert, that's also on Peter's YouTube channel. I
Yeah.
did not do well.
He
It
did
was
not go very far.
I was tied for the second out. I think it was a double.
Yeah.
So it wasn't great, but in my defense, I blame chemistry because when I was talking it over afterwards with these guys, and I want to say full disclosure, I was on to something with like the code. There was the code like 48. I looked at the which periodic element that was, and then I looked up what type of acid you have to make. So like I technically was onto something. It was just a little bit overcomplicated for what they were looking for. And I was
Yeah.
psyching myself out because I sucked at chemistry in high school. I not my forte whatsoever. So I was trying really hard to not go out that round. And guess what happened? I overfought myself right out of that round. But yeah, I wouldn't say my gameplay changed at all. I don't I can't speak for the rest of them. Kyle, I think that's a good case study, considering, he was one of the ones who watched. But once again, I think he played more of a Survivor-esque game, making the alliances to get information. And that is what you have to do to an extent, but the parallels of a student-run game don't really apply as much here.
Yeah, and I mean, you like I said, you had a very cool opportunity. You got to watch the show, and then a couple months later, actually play. So that's just like such a cool thing that you got to experience and you got to do. I guess I wanted to ask a question like, so because you've watched not only like you said how we started that club at Rutgers, but you have watched Survivor, Big Brother, maybe some things of the challenge, maybe what's that one show where they're going around to different countries? Why am I blanking on it? Amazing Race, amazing.
Amazing
Like
Race.
you've
Yeah.
made watch a couple of. How did Who
Total
Done It?
drama.
Yeah,
That's
total
the real
drama.
one right
That
there.
counts. It counts in the lore here. But how do you think Who Done It kind of compares with that type of idea of a reality show? Like, I know you talked about it a little bit, but is there any other key differences or key likenesses that you think could have been explored more in Who Done It, or maybe is are like completely totally different that you don't get in those shows? Anything
Well,
like that?
I think you said it one time, Peter, when we were talking that season two, there could have been a lot more, if the show were to continue, there could have been a lot more evolution in the strategy of how people share information, maybe hold things to their chest, like even though they don't vote each other out, maybe there's something where you can essentially strong arm someone into getting the information. So I think there's enough reality TV elements from a competition standpoint where it could have become something, but it genuinely felt like something different, for better or for worse. And that I think that could be why, even though people bought in, maybe that's part of the reason why it didn't get renewed. It's not the same classic, oh, you're betraying someone on screen and getting that emotional reaction that people are looking for in most of these other shows. So I do think it was genuinely different, which was a cool change of pace. But when it's being advertised as like a reality TV thing and you're expecting one thing and getting the opposite, that threw me off a little bit.
And another question I had for you, Adam, was who would you kind of recommend this show towards? Because I know you would probably have not watched this unless I like forced you to, like I said, with to sit down with me and that was my
Yeah.
first time rewatching it since it aired.
Mhm.
But who would you recommend the show to?
So that's a difficult one because like I said, it's not the standard reality TV emotes in that genre. So first off, I'd say to anyone that likes like science because there's a surprising amount of like biology, anatomy, random chaotic things that go on. I think people that like the Netflix crime dramas and documentaries like this has a surprisingly decent tie-in to that with all the investigations and everything. And for the reality TV crowd, I mean, I'd just say give it a shot because I mean it's part of the genre. If you don't like it, it's whatever. But I think like me and a lot of other people, you'll find that, especially after that fireball at the first episode, you'll like the production value, you'll like what it is, and it's only 8 episodes. It should have went on for more seasons, but because it only went on for one, I feel like if anything, that's an easier way to convince people to watch because it doesn't even take that much time to watch.
I guess I wanted to ask you because a lot of fans at the time and some people who got to watch it now, like Kyle, how we mentioned before, um, they were kind of, either taken back or a little bit confused at the finale. What did you think kind of working up to the finale? And if you need a reminder of what that was, you can, like, we'll tell you. But do you remember, like, I don't know. We'll say our thoughts after you. What did you think of the finale?
Well, Peter, I remember we talked about it for a good 20 minutes after, because remember at this point I was bought in. I actually enjoyed it. I made it to the finale. And I thought there were things that could have done better. I think genuinely the format behind it all, while I understand like they were keeping consistent with like who's solving the case first, it was very confusing, unfortunately, for me to kind of see, like, okay, so one of the finalists gets killed last second. They don't make you realize that the other one was the killer. And then by default, the third guy wins, even if he wasn't leading. And I remember, Peter, and this is where my memory's getting a little bit iffy, but we were talking about like there was some scenario that I came up with where it turns out it was very feasible where, okay, what happens if Chris, that was her name, the killer. What if she like technically would have won the challenge? Then how do you spin that and wait for the second guy, whether it's Lindsay or Cam, to finish and then who gets to determine the winner. So I was like, if the challenge is the same, like it just felt like there was some game flaw there that they got lucky that it worked out the way it was supposed to. Maybe that's the wrong way of wording it, but it just I felt like the finale could have been done better. I'm not sure how mechanics wise, in all honesty, but maybe like a guess who the killer thing is. I really couldn't tell you. But I remember thinking, okay, the shock factor, and now in that last death too, about like where they got Lindsay like going in the door and then just getting the throat cut. That was a shocker as well. So don't get me wrong, for what it was a very well done finale. It just confused me from like the strategist in me.
Yeah. And maybe this is a little sneak peek onto our behind the scenes episode when we do that. But I know Matt did a lot of digging into this. And apparently, the finale that was aired and showed to people was total editing magic. It did not play
Yes.
out that way at all. Matt, would you like to kind of describe, like, do you remember how that worked? Because I think I do, but unless you remember.
Yeah, like you said, it was a lot of editing. What we see is we see the three finalists competing at the same exact time, but what they actually did was they all went and competed separately, individually, and they were timed. So everything that we saw was essentially just for cameras, just to like show like how it actually went down. But I believe them going to each person and doing the riddles and stuff. I believe they did all actually do that. It was just on their own. And I think actually Chris ended up having the fastest time, but because Chris is the killer, then it didn't matter at the end of the day.
I
So
actually do remember reading that. I think me and
yeah,
Peter looked into that a little bit as well. So yeah, I guess with that in mind, it seems more fair. It still makes sense, but I don't think it. And once again, editing magic, I get why they did what they needed to do, but I think maybe it just wasn't explained to the
yeah.
casual viewer as much, and maybe that's where that disconnect came from.
Yeah, the only thing that wasn't editing that I believe was when Chris and Cam are in the room for the final time. I think that's all happening in real time.
Yeah.
And they were both told there's just a final clue in there and go find it. And that's
Yeah.
why you get this whole awkward exchange between Cam and Chris, and then the show just kind of like ends right there pretty much.
Yeah. And
Yeah, that was a little bit bizarre. It was funny though, and I mean, you realized at that point, okay, that's clearly what's happening, and I don't have a problem with it. It just like I said, I don't know if there's anything that could have made it better because once again, the show itself was supposed to be something different. It's
Yeah.
not a Survivor thing where a jury's voting for you to win. So I think it's a format that takes some getting used to, and if it actually got traction, if it got renewed, maybe there could have been some tweaking, maybe not, and I think it could have been well received. But and that's just my overarching point of the show that it just didn't get the traction because I think it's not what people were expecting, even though it was incredibly well made and well produced. But it was cool to
Yeah.
say the least to see it all play out at the end, regardless of how iffy or controversial it may have felt. It was still a satisfying ending. At the end of the day, these shows are trying to tell a story. That's what you're trying to do. And it ended up that the strategist, the guy who was the villain at the start, ended up having that heroic story and being the one to figure it out. It was good TV as far as I'm concerned.
And I mean, like I said, just thank you very much, Adam, for taking the time and coming here to get interviewed and just talk about the show that, like I said, we love so much.
Of course.
So happy you got a chance to watch it, play it, talk about it. And then once again, thank you, Matt, very much for taking time. You're finally done your junior year, so best of luck with your senior year. And yeah, guys, this was Remembering Whodunnit Podcast. I'm Peter Slattery. It's Matt DeGennaro. Thank you, Adam, once again. And we'll see you guys soon.